When we started, we said, who are we? And what do we believe we're good at? We'd done a bit of real estate investing, but our real strength, our real forte was as business owners. So we said, we're going to focus on apartments because they act like an operating business. We were going to pay absolutely no attention to what the industry was doing. You know, people talk about, well, I tore up the rule book. We never actually even picked the rule book up. And so we built all of our own systems, processes, strategies, and beliefs. We quickly found out that what we were doing was radically different than the industry. Well, I'm Larry Connor, and I'm the managing partner of the Connor Group.
Larry Connor is a real estate investor based in Dayton, Ohio. His transactional approach to real estate investing at his firm, the Connor Group, has made him a billionaire, worth an estimated $2 billion. A self-described C student in high school, Connor went on to become an entrepreneur who built one of the best performing real estate funds in the country.
There are certain personality traits that are common to most entrepreneurs. I mean, you gotta have what we call grit, passion and perseverance. Some people wear the moniker of entrepreneur, but they're not. They're people like wannabe entrepreneurs. To be a real entrepreneur is exceptionally hard to do.
The son of a World War II vet father and a Red Cross volunteer mother, he went to high school in Dayton and graduated with a 2.0 GPA, painting houses on the side with a friend. After graduation, he started buying used cars and packing them with damaged label wines in Dayton, selling them on for a profit to college students in Athens, where he attended Ohio University. On weekends, he'd pick up dead bodies and bring them to a local funeral home for $5 apiece. After school came a sales gig at a Volkswagen dealership, followed by a stint as a travel advisor, which took him to Morocco, Mexico, and Europe.
I had an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of, I guess today what you call C-level executives, and you kind of got to see both sides. Some immensely talented, and other people that I wondered how they ever got in that position.
And then, by the time he was 27, he went back to Dayton to start his own business.
Here in Dayton, there was a new historical district called the Oregon District. And I and a partner thought that we could start a bar restaurant. And so we took an old movie theater, converted it. By the way, we had no money and no experience. And we went out and got 21 investors. We raised a grand total of $52,500. We started it called Newcomb's Tavern. It was phenomenally successful. We sold it 2 years later, and the investors got a 300% return.
He took the proceeds and bought and sold homes in Dayton. Then, in the 1980s, he moved to Orlando, setting up a company that reportedly was once the second largest reseller of IBM microcomputers in Florida. But the success didn't last, and the firm shut its doors in 1990.
I'm age 40, I'm broke. I have a wife, 2 kids, and a farm. Actually, the problem is I'm worse than broke, because I have borrowed $900,000 on what they call signature loans. Well, even though I was broke, I was bound and determined I was going to pay every dime back. I just thought that was the right thing to do. If you said, did you have a plan? No, but I had a commitment to do it anyway. 3 years later, through a lot of hard work, dedication, and a bit of luck, I ended up paying back every one of the lenders.
He turned again to real estate, recruiting 2 partners and a single investor to form the Connor, Murphy, and Berman Group, which invested in apartment buildings.
There were 3 apartment communities in Dayton that had gone back to this Kansas City savings and loan through a foreclosure. We started negotiating with them. It went on for, I don't remember, 6 months. We were getting ready to close. We called them on a Friday. The government had come in that morning and seized the S&L. We were back to ground zero, starting over. That's not good when you're trying to do your first acquisitions. We just didn't know how to quit. So literally almost a year after that, to the day, we bought those 3 apartment communities, and we actually bought them at $1 million less than we had agreed to pay, yet the operations had improved. And so that was the launching pad, and those 3 apartment communities turned out to be huge successes.
10 years later, he bought out his partners and took over the firm. Connor seeks quick returns in an illiquid market, trying to profitably sell properties as quickly as possible, constantly analyzing each one to juice income and minimize costs. On average, the firm keeps a property for 5.5 years.
You've got to be willing to take calculated risk, not stupid risk. You got to be an achiever, but you also have to have some understanding and appreciation that people really matter and that you can't do it alone and that you got to build, the right group of people. We tried to hire some people from the industry in the first 2 years. It never worked out. So by strategy, we built a business all with people who've never done it before. And it was one of the smartest things we did because we're not encumbered by industry or conventional thinking.
The Connor Group currently owns and operates a $5 billion portfolio of 51 apartment buildings across 12 states, from Colorado to Florida. Since it was founded in 1991, its investments in luxury apartments have generated an annual rate of return of 30.4%. Many of those buildings were sold less than 3 years after they were acquired, with returns ranging from 17 to 159%. That risk isn't limited to his investments. Connor's personal adventures include skydiving out of an air balloon at a record-breaking 38,139 feet, a pioneering plunge to the bottom of the Mariana Trench at 35,856 feet below sea level, and a mission to the International Space Station as one of the world's first private astronauts.
There's never been a private crew that's ever gone to the International Space Station. We were the first. The 10 months of almost full-time training, extremely difficult and humbling. Because keep in mind, all the NASA astronauts, mega talented, all have advanced STEM degrees. I have none of the above. We did not good, but groundbreaking research across 25 plus different experiments. There have been few weeks in the history of the International Space Station that much research was conducted in that compressed period of time. So, immensely proud of the AX1 team. Yes, I would go again. Yes, I may go again.
His ambition extends to philanthropy as well.
There's huge turmoil in March of 2020. We thought, for a multitude of reasons, we had both the obligation and the opportunity to stay engaged, to keep operating, but with that became a huge responsibility to take not good but phenomenal care of the people who are going to get us there, which is all the associates, especially the people at the front lines.
Early in the pandemic in 2020, Connor invested in a handful of stocks and the investment gained $1.6 million in 10 days.
I felt great, but a little bit wrong about, hey, it's great you did that, but look at all these other people who are out there suffering or working or things like that. So I called then the director of communications, Ryan Ernst.
I was leaving the office and he called. And I picked up and I said, what's going on? And he said, you know how I had recently made some of those trades that we had talked about on the stock market and made that money, 1.6 million. He said, what would you think if we just gave it to all frontline workers?
Any employee who does two things, works here for the next 6 months and does a good job on their job, we're going to take that 1.6 million and spread it out over roughly, I think, 400 associates we had at the time.
And I said, this is why I love working here, because you do crazy shit like this. I think that you should sleep on it and let's talk in the morning. But I love the idea.
In April of 2020, Larry broadcasted a video message to his employees to share the news.
I'm taking the entire 1.6 million and dividing up amongst all of you.
Why?
In my view, this is not a gift. You've earned it.
Oh my God.
So again, I want to thank each and every one of you for staying in the game and doing your part.
It really showed he put his money where his mouth is. Like, people count, and I don't think he could have picked a better way to show us how we counted. Like, it's not everything, but just that gesture, like, it meant a lot, especially during that time for a lot of people.
People were wildly appreciative. People did a phenomenal job, and so in my mind, you just invested in the most important thing you can invest in, and that's in people.
The Connor Group has a nonprofit arm called Kids and Community Partners, which includes the Greater Dayton School. And it recently opened the doors of its new location in Dayton.
It takes a tremendous amount of people to try to do the impossible, which is what we're trying to do here. And so the hope is, and the belief is that we can build a revolutionary model that can transform kids' lives. Kids who are under-resourced. We believe that if we equip these kids, not only academics, but the total person, what we call all the wraparound services, that these kids can do as well, if not better, than any other child from any other environment.
We know from research that if you're able to teach individually and at a child's own pace, they can grow from the 10th percentile to the 76th percentile in 1 year, which is unheard of. We saw upwards of 20% growth in our students because we teach this way. It's not easy, but it's super impactful. And that's just on the academic side. We had last year 96% of our kids pass the presidential fitness test, and that's super important to us. We had 98% of our kids get preventative care, so their annual doctor's visits, 2 dental cleanings. It's unlike anything that I could have imagined that I would have as a principal in terms of the resources that we could provide our students.
Our gut is telling us that this thing works, and the early data is telling us that this thing works. We really started looking at it more like nonprofit activist investing as opposed to philanthropy or charity or just writing checks. How are we really going to make a difference and help pull people out of generational poverty?
I've seen kids in the public school system slip through the cracks because of the lack of resources that our country provides kids from under-resourced areas. To have the resources to really give our students what they deserve, what every kid deserves, it hits home.
It's great that we did this in Dayton, Ohio, but it's just one city. This is a national crisis, but also a national opportunity that it would be a shame we didn't take advantage of it. The kids are our future of America. We need to give them the opportunities, right?
No matter what is involved in, Connor runs a tight ship. At the Connor Group, every employee is rated on a 10-point scale, where a 7 equates to a C grade.
The reality is, this place is not for most people, but it's a phenomenal place for the right person.
I tell people all the time, he's not an easy person to work for, but it's never not interesting. And he really, at his core, likes to help people. I mean, he really, really does. His baseline motivation for doing this stuff is not headlines, it's not financially driven. I mean, there's so many things that he does for people that never make it out of this building or that never make it out of his office that he just enjoys doing.
There's a much higher standard than being financially successful, period. Everybody knows what the right thing is. Some people just choose not to follow it. Well, that doesn't work for us. And we don't care who you are. To us, it's never been about sizing. It's always been about excellence. We will sacrifice sizing, success, financial gain for excellence.